Martin Scorsese's The Irishman is considered the swan song of the classic American mafia movie, and the last hurrah to a generation of actors such as Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci. It tells the story of World War II veteran Frank Sheeran and how he became a hitman for the likes of Teamsters Union President Jimmy Hoffa and mob boss Russell Bufalino. Here are 40 interesting pieces of fact and trivia about the film. Number 1. Originally, The Irishman was not going to be the big reunion between Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro after Casino in 1995. They planned to adapt Don Winslow's novel The Winter of Frankie Machine, a fictional crime novel in which an aged and retired hitman is forced back into action after he is targeted for murder. The film was all set to go, but whilst preparing for the film, De Niro was given a book for research purposes by screenwriter Eric Roth called I Heard You Paint Houses, written by Charles Brandt. De Niro read it and said to Scorsese that they should be making this film instead, and so the duo ditched Frankie Machine and decided to adapt I Heard You Paint Houses. Number 2. In spite of the fact that The Irishman was always envisioned as a project starring Robert De Niro, Al Pacino and Joe Pesci together for the first time in history, and the fact that Joe Pesci attended the original script reading of the film in 2013, when the time finally came to make the film and it was about to go into production, Joe Pesci, who had been retired for around 20 years bar a few projects here and there, turned down his role as Russell Bufalino and refused to appear in the film with his friends Scorsese and De Niro. Reportedly, it took over 50 attempts for Scorsese and De Niro to convince Pesci to finally accept the role. Number 3. The senior citizen cast in the film had an uncredited posture coach, Gary Tacon, who was on set for much of the shoot to ensure the actors were able to properly act the ages they were portraying. Number 4. Stephen Graham, who plays Anthony Provenzano in the film, was extremely nervous to be in a movie with the likes of veteran actors such as Robert De Niro and Al Pacino. He found himself on the toilet seat more often than he liked, and during the "you're late" scene, where Jimmy Hoffa and Tony Pro debate how late is too late to a meeting, Graham recalls thinking, "I am in a scene with Robert De Niro and he says nothing." This led Graham to improvise a line where he asked De Niro's character, "What do you think?" And much to Graham's delight, De Niro improvised the response where he says, "How about 12 and a half?" Number 25. When Frank Sheeran says that 3 people can keep a secret only when 2 of them are dead, he is quoting Benjamin Franklin. Number 6. The Irishman marks the first and only time veteran filmmaker Martin Scorsese and veteran actor Al Pacino have ever made a film together, in spite of the two wanting to work with each other for decades. Pacino's performance in The Irishman would garner him an Oscar nomination. Number 7. Al Pacino does not appear until over 45 minutes into the movie. Number 8. The Irishman was nominated for 10 Academy Awards, but won none. Had it been nominated for one more Oscar, it would have been tied with Turning Point and The Color Purple as the movies with the most Oscar nominations without winning. Scorsese's Gangs of New York was also nominated for 10 Oscars without winning any. Number 9. When Russell Bufalino and Frank Sheeran first meet, during a rehearsal take, Joe Pesci improvised not answering Robert De Niro when he asked what his name is. Scorsese liked this, as it signified the power and mystique behind Bufalino, and it was incorporated into the final shoot. Number 10. The movie had a mammoth production with 9 cameras, 309 scenes, and 117 locations, sometimes meaning as many as 3 company moves in a single day. Number 11. According to Martin Scorsese, on the 78-year-old Al Pacino's first day of shooting, he had to get out of a chair like a 47-year-old. But Scorsese had to reluctantly ask Pacino to redo the take because Pacino's rising from the chair was too noticeably slow. When Pacino performed the scene again, he looked at Scorsese and quipped, 62. Number 12. The film is the first Scorsese picture to star Harvey Keitel in over 30 years, who starred in Scorsese's first ever film as the lead in Who's That Knocking at My Door in 1967. Number 13. The Irishman is the longest film of Martin Scorsese's career at 3.5 hours. Number 14. Martin Scorsese had a voice cameo in the film when he says, "All rise, court is in session," during the scene where Sheeran is sued for stealing meat from his truck. Number 15. Mickey Rocco claimed that Scorsese wanted him to appear in the film, but Robert De Niro put a stop to it, as he did not want Rocco in the film after a feud between the two on the set of 1987's Angel Hot. The Irishman's producers deny this, saying Mickey Rourke was never asked to be in The Irishman, nor was he ever thought of, discussed, or considered to be in the movie. Number 16. The film had an extraordinarily high budget of an estimated $160 million due to Industrial Light and Magic's special effects used to de-age the main cast for flashback scenes. Because of this, Paramount Pictures dropped out of making The Irishman, and other Hollywood studios were either unwilling or unable to fund the movie, hence the film being picked up by Netflix. According to Scorsese, however, no Hollywood studio was interested in funding The Irishman even before the decision was made to have expensive de-aging effects works done. Number 17. At one point in the film, Joe Pesci's Russell Bufalino instructs De Niro's Frank Sheeran to meet with a fairy named Ferry, a reference to David Ferry, who is believed to have been involved with the Bay of Pigs invasion and the JFK assassination. Pesci actually played David Ferry in Oliver Stone's 1991 picture JFK. Number 18. The film is one of the longest shoots of Scorsese's career at approximately 106 days. Number 19. Stephen Graham improvised swatting Al Pacino's ice cream off the table in the prison scene. Pacino was genuinely startled, later saying, "The kid scared me," and from then on, Graham was given the nickname The Kid on set of the film. Number 20. The prison that Hoffa is sent to is the United States Penitentiary in Louisburg. This is the same prison which protagonist Henry Hill is sent to in Goodfellas. Interestingly, Whitey Bulger, who was the inspiration for the character Frank Costello in Scorsese's The Departed, also did time in Louisburg, as did Enoch L. Johnson, the inspiration for Nucky Thompson in the Scorsese-produced Boardwalk Empire. Number 21. Jonathan Morris, who plays the priest near the end of the film, was a real-life Catholic priest, before leaving priesthood in 2019. Number 22. Jim Norton plays the character Don Rickles in the Copacabana restaurant scene where he is performing a comedy routine. The real Rickles was good friends with Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro and had a role in Scorsese's 1995 film Casino. Number 23. The Irishman is the 7th film to feature Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci, after Raging Bull, Once Upon a Time in America, Goodfellas, Casino, A Bronx Tale and The Good Shepherd. It is also the 4th film directed by Martin Scorsese to star both De Niro and Pesci, after Raging Bull, Goodfellas and Casino. Number 24. Even though Robert De Niro was always slated to play the role of Frank Sheeran, it is thought that if Joe Pesci did not agree to be in the film, after initially turning it down, De Niro would have been asked to take the role of Russell Bufalino, with Liam Neeson and Pierce Brosnan discussed by Paramount Pictures as alternative lead actors. Although Neeson was a decade younger than De Niro, Scorsese had doubts that the Irish-born actor could pull off the accent required for the film. It is thought that Bronson was never contacted, as by then Pesci had agreed to be in the movie. Number 25. The Irishman is far less flashy and more stripped out and simply shot than previous Scorsese gangster films, and this was an intentional decision by the filmmaker, as explained by editor Thelma Schoonmaker when she said, "Marty wanted to show the banality of the violence. It's not like the incredible camera moves or flashy editing of the earlier movies. Victims are killed in an instant, often in very simple wide shots, and his brilliant idea of slamming the titles in front of the audience was a way of showing that being part of the mafia is not a good idea." Number 26. The Irishman is Martin Scorsese's 26th full-length theatrical feature film. Number 27. Martin Scorsese was aware links would be made with the opening tracking shot of The Irishman to the famed Copacabana tracking shot in Goodfellas. The Irishman has a sardonical relationship with it, showing the loneliness and decay of the life of an aged gangster, whilst the one in Goodfellas highlights the glitz and glamour of mob life. Number 28. Ray Liotta, who played the lead in Scorsese's gangster classic Goodfellas, expressed an interest in playing a role in the movie, but was not contacted. Number 29. According to the book the film is based on, Russell Bufalino's favourite song was Spanish Eyes, which can be heard during Frank Sheeran Appreciation Night in the film. Number 30. 2 of the Irishman stars have portrayed the infamous gangster Al Capone. Robert De Niro played Capone in Brian De Palma's 1987 crime film The Untouchables, and Stephen Graham portrayed the mobster in the TV show Boardwalk Empire, produced by Scorsese. Interestingly, De Palma's Scarface, made in 1983, was a remake of the 1932 picture of the same name, a film which was heavily inspired by the life of Al Capone. The protagonist in the Scarface remake, Tony Montana, was of course played by Al Pacino, so in a way, 3 actors in The Irishman have portrayed the notorious bootlegger. Number 31. The film was in development for around 10 years, with the first official reports announcing the project being released in 2010. Number 32. Robert De Niro plays the character Frank Sheeran as old as in his 80s and as young as in his 20s, despite being in his mid-70s during filming. Number 33. There are 4 Oscar winners in the cast: Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Joe Pesci and Anna Paquin, and 1 Oscar-nominated actor, Harvey Keitel. Likewise, the director, editor, screenwriter, cinematographer and even the costume designer are all Oscar winners. Number 34. Just before Jimmy Hoffa's speech in Miami, Scorsese uses a shot that tracks over the water to the hotel. This shot is almost an exact replica used to open the Jackie Gleason show in 1966 and even uses the same music. Incidentally, the Gleason show was filmed in Miami. Number 35. In his first scene during a freeze frame, we are told that Alan Dorfman was shot 8 times in a parking lot. In Scorsese's Casino, the character Andy Stone was based on Alan Dorfman, and he shared the same fate, being shot 8 times in a parking lot towards the end of the film. Number 36. The scene during Frank Sheeran Appreciation Night in which Jimmy Hoffa and Russell Buffalo argue is the first and only time in film history that Al Pacino and Joe Pesci have ever been on screen together. Likewise, when Hoffa walks over to Angelo Bruno and greets him, this is the only time Pacino and Harvey Keitel have ever been on screen together. Also, the film marks the first time Joe Pesci and Harvey Keitel have ever been on screen together, despite both working numerous times with Martin Scorsese. Number 37. During the scene where De Niro talks to a Teamsters worker in his office, there is a photo of a man and a kangaroo in boxing poses behind De Niro. This is a reference to a scene in the book the film is based on, where Frank Sheeran says he fought with a kangaroo in a boxing match for cash. Number 38. Anna Paquin says 7 words in the film, and 3 of them are the same word. Number 39. In the opening scene where Old Man Sheeran is narrating about painting houses, there is a quick cut of a panning shot of someone being murdered in a home. If you look carefully, this is actually a breadcrumb of the final scene in which Sheeran executes Jimmy Hoffa. And finally, number 40. In the final scene of the film, the priest informs Frank that he will be out of town for a while because of the upcoming Christmas. In real life, Frank Sheeran died 11 days before Christmas in 2003, suggesting that this scene takes place close to or during Sheeran's last night alive. So there you have it. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button for more videos. Thanks for watching.